everybody, how are you? Welcome to the Curious Mind of Raquel. I am your favorite mermaid mystic. So today's video is going to be all about, I want to share with you my success story, and I think I've shared with you before the story of how I manifested Jeffrey Sean and my twin flame, which I know people that do not believe in twin flames, but I do. So I'm going to share my experience and the things that I know and believe to be true, right? Everyone is you pushed out. So therefore, I'm going to share my story in the way that I feel it benefits myself as well as others. Because there might be many people out there watching this video and they sort of want hope or faith that yes, you do have the capability of manifesting your twin flame. So I want to share with you all of the circumstances that were at bay. I'm hopefully going to remember all of them. I will really try hard to, because I want you to understand how many circumstances there were that would tell me, if I were to have paid attention to them, that I would not have received my manifestation and manifested my twin flame. So I'm going to give you the circumstances and the different experiences that I went through, not knowing of the sequence of events that were taking place at that particular time that were leading me on the path to me manifesting Jeffrey Sean. So I'll take you back a bit so that you can understand the experience that I was going through at that moment, as well as the circumstances that were invariably very difficult. But because I did not focus on those and I lived like Neville, in the end, I basically basked in the Abraham Hicks of saying, of seeing and visualizing what you wanted to happen. That you cannot get this life wrong. You can't make a bad decision. Everything works according to the best for you. So that's one thing that I really want you to understand, is that often when we're raised in religion, myself included, exactly, that's why I speak about that, is that you are taught from a young age that you can make bad decisions and that there is a right way and a wrong way to do life. And the thing that I want you to understand, my darlings, is that there is no way of getting anything wrong in your life. So when you clear that away and know that no matter what decision you make, it will be the right decision. It is the right decision in that moment. And so you can't get your life wrong. So that's a very freeing and liberated feeling, that once you learn the law of assumption, that you can't get your life wrong, that it makes it so much easier for you to make decisions, knowing that you're always, your inner being, your mermaid inner being, is going to guide you and direct you properly and perfectly. So you can't do anything wrong and you can't get anything wrong. So understand that. That's one thing that I really want you I wanted to express to you, that you will understand that all the decisions that you make, you are making the right decision, because that's the right decision for you. And everything will always work out accordingly. So let me begin now the story. Now, as many of you may already know, but for those that might be new to my channel, do not know, let me share the story with you. So I was married. I had met the person that was my then husband. I had met him when I was 15 years old, and I was a freshman in high school. And I grew up very religious, Pentecostal Church of God, and then later on became involved because my ex-husband was my first boyfriend, the only boy I'd ever kissed, the only boy, okay? So I led a very sheltered life, because I was very religious, so I was very sheltered as a young girl. Now, when I got to high school and I got to that age, 15 years old, although I liked him, I was not allowed to date or anything of that nature because I was only 15 years old. So when I turned 16, he was showing an interest in me. So anyway, long story short, we go on to date. I wait for him whilst he is on his mission. And there were many red flags, obviously. There was many There was, signs of abuse early on, which should have been red flags to me. But you have to understand that I came from a background, and my growing up and my childhood was very abusive. So my father was, and I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus here, but I think it's very important for me to be transparent and share with you the authenticity of my life. And obviously I'm not going to share certain details that are very, very personal to me, but just knowing that I'm probably not much different than many, many people, especially being raised with parents. I mean, I'm 52, so in that range of me growing up in the 70s, the 80s. So I came from a very destructive childhood. Also, you see loads of things that are very, very abusive and very toxic. So that would go on to become the way that I saw life being normal. Like, it was normal to be psychologically, mentally abused and physically abused. So when I met my husband, I mean, obviously we met in high school, I did not know that about law of assumption or the, law of attraction or anything of that nature. And so you mirror what becomes normal to you in your childhood. It'll make me cry a little bit, but that's what you know as being normal. So you will accept that type of behavior from people. Let me gather my senses because I don't want to cry. I want to get this information out. It's a happy, actually, story. But anyway, yeah, so you grow up in that kind of environment, and then it becomes very normal to you. And so you don't think anything about it. You think that is what love equates to, is being abused. And so my main abuse stemmed from my ex-husband. Anyway, we go on. I waited for him on his mission, and I was, I would pretty much believe that I was sort of brainwashed, because then I became a Mormon, and he wouldn't marry me if I was not Mormon, and that was a big issue in our lives. And so I ended up converting to Mormonism and became a Mormon, and then that also is a very controlling atmosphere, and women are deemed not submissive and subjected to their husband. So it fit well into kind of the life that I had already been in whilst I was a young girl. And so that goes on to play out. Now, my husband at that time, my only ex-husband, was, whereas he wasn't a blazing alcoholic and volatile and all of that sort of thing like my father was, because he was living two lives. He was a separate, and still to this day, he is a separate person from what you see externally. He's not the same person. And so I think oftentimes that goes into a lot of psychological ways that people fracture their mind and disassociate from real life, and so they create different personalities, and they confine themselves to these different boxes that they present themselves as. And so that's where the narcissism comes in. And so obviously I had not also known that I was married to a narcissist. I had no clue, because I was very naive, understandably, very, very naive. And so I'm not saying, listen to me, darlings, I'm not saying that I wasn't a bit much back in the day, because I was I've always been a fiery sort of personality, very, very strong-willed. So that's one bonus that you get when you're in a destructive environment and a very unstable environment. Pardon me for the noises out back, but I've got the window open in the cottage, but it must be the neighbors. But anyway, the instability teaches people in childhood circumstances like that, you become very, very strong person. So that's a bonus. Okay, let's use all of the positive aspects of negative things that happen to us, because we all experience them, and turn them into good. Okay, so anyway, so I go on to marry him, and all throughout our dating, there was massive, massive red flags. But because I was raised in that kind of environment, you learn early on in their childhood to not listen to their inner guidance system. They don't listen to the inner guidance system. They believe that whoever else is they're subjected to, that they know more and better than them, which meant my parents, which meant people that I looked up to, but were absolutely untrustworthy and just very, it wasn't a good example. Now, my mother and my father did the best that they can, and they did, the best that they were capable of doing. And my mom, obviously, she's still very religious, but she's very much grown as a woman. Her and my dad all still married. My dad quit drinking when I was 11. However, you have all of those things that you have learned, those behaviors and everything at such an early age, that they become very, very much instrumental into your life. Anyway, so let me get on with it. I ended up marrying my first boyfriend, my ex-husband, and we went on to have children. I stayed in the church for all the way up until I was in 2014. And that's when I began having all of these sort of spiritual, like moments of spiritual awakening, and realizing that religion wasn't doing it for me. I had been in 2 religions at this point from my entire life. 21, when I had my first son, I had a near-death experience, which should have taught me something, but I was too petrified and terrified to even venture into that and explore that portion of myself that I had recognized through that near-death experience. So I went on, but in 2014, I was living in California, and I started recognizing things, and then I, started learning things about Abraham Hicks is where I first started out. I didn't know about Neville at that time. And so at that time, I was able to listen to Abraham Hicks and learn so much about her stuff and reading her books and everything, that I just figured that I was going to manifest, because I'd always had this thought that my husband at that time, all through my life, had always felt as though, yeah, we got married in the temple, but I don't feel like he's my person. And I just would always dismiss it as if because my bishops would tell me, my husband would tell me, you've gone off, love, you need to get on medication, like you're having a nervous breakdown, like you're a bit crazy, you've gone mad. And so that was the form of abuse. So I always thought that something was wrong with me. So I would never venture into those other things, but I was always checking books out and learning about self-development and all that kind of thing. And so it never resonated with me that something was really, really wrong with me. And therefore, I just continually read and read and read. Anyway, so I got really, really, and I've written about this in my blog, and it will be in my book coming out in January. I was having a really bad time, and this is when we were in California. And I just started having a spiritual awakening, and I know that's what it was. And I was like, you know what, I really want out of this marriage. I don't want another person, but I really dream of having someone that I could, my person, that I felt safe with, and that adored me, and that really loved me, and thought that I was pretty, and told me that I was pretty, and that wanted to go to flea markets with me, that wanted to, didn't care that I dressed like old-fashioned clothing, and that I wanted to be an artist and a writer, and that was my dream. And I had dreamt about that since I was a little girl. I'd even gotten a 4-year scholarship at an art school when I was a senior, and I turned it down because of the person I was waiting for, that was then my husband. I just had always dreamt of feeling as though I don't feel like this is my person, like I'm not madly in love with this person. And something that I thought for the longest time it was something that was wrong with me, because I had been convinced that that was something that was wrong with me. So therefore I went on, like I said, when I went on my spiritual awakening, and I began my spiritual awakening, I did not tell anyone what I was going through, because I was too petrified to tell anyone, because I did not want to be medicated anymore, and I didn't want to be told, from my church authorities and things like that, that something was, I'd gone off. And so I kept it secret. And so just start visualizing, like, oh, like when I would take baths, you know, I would start to take my, we had this garden tub, and I would take baths, and then we ended up moving to Oklahoma. And all of this time, I had been kind of invariably doing this and that and saying, oh, wouldn't that be so neat if I was married to someone and he loved to garden with me, and he's distinguished, you know, like when you create these imaginative tales in your mind, like everyone does it. It's a part of like when we were children, and we know that God is the I am of your imagination, right? So you just start creating these beautiful visions of like, oh, this person is, you know, he's tall, he's probably 5'10", 5'11", he's got curly brown chestnut hair, he's, you know, got olive skin, and he's so nurturing, and he's so kind, and he's masculine, because that was really important for me. Like my ex-husband was very feminine as a man, and it bothered me, and I wanted all of these different things. So what I would do is set my candles, and I would do my bubble bath, because obviously I'm a mermaid, so I love baths, and I would just create in my mind this imaginative person that I didn't know what he looked like or anything of that nature. I just knew what all of the aspects of the things that I had in my past, and all of the things that I knew of that were in my relationship at that time, that I knew I did not want in some person that was this manifestation of this beautiful person that I wanted to manifest. So I knew of all the things I didn't want: somebody that wasn't trustworthy, somebody that was an alcoholic, somebody that was abusive, somebody that was psychological demeaning, somebody that never told me that I was pretty, somebody that never brought me roses or worked in the garden with me. All these different things I knew, because I had not had them, that I knew that what I wanted. So that's the beauty of having relationships and things that you've had that have not gone great, that therefore you know what you don't want in a relationship, you know what you don't want in a house, you know what you don't want in a career, you know what I mean? So you can utilize all of those aspects that were negative in your life to turn them positive. And so because this video is now at 20 minutes, I am going to give you a portion number 2, because that was just the groundwork. So now in the next video, we're going to get on to the actual things that happened when I began the 8 weeks of manifesting my twin flame, Jeffrey Sean. And this is benefiting you in any manner, I would hope that you would subscribe, and thank you so much. It makes the channel grow when you comment and like. And as always, I'm most affably yours until my next swim. Cheers, darlings. Toodle pip.